All right, man. Let's talk about Tobias Harris. Is he good as gone? Remember Jalen Rose was saying Pistons need a stretch four. You remember that? So we was hearing things like him saying that, and Tobias signed a 1 year 2 year deal. So maybe he wasn't expected to be here for the long haul or whatever. But most people are already kind of like writing him off, and as he gone already, he has an expiring contract around what 25, $26 million. Um, and by I feel like he filled the stretch forward void pretty good for the Detroit Pistons. And I'm being honest, I feel like he did a great job of filling the stretch forward void. I mean, I think people didn't give him enough credit early in the season. It was just about his shooting woes. He's not shooting the ball. So I still fucked up, but he's still not shooting the ball. Good enough. You know what I'm saying? But Tim Hardaway Jr. had to knock off the rust too. But Tobias Harris, what he did do, he provided a lot of stability at the power forward position defensively. That's one of the reasons the Pistons defense got so good is because they done had guys out of position. James Wiseman, Isaiah Stewart trying to guard the power forwards of the day. The power forwards of the day are small forwards. That's all it is. A lot of the small forwards is just shooting guards or just small forwards in general. But the new power forward is a small forward. So yeah, So yeah, I mean, like I said before, only real gripe I had with him was like I didn't feel like he was abusing Brunson enough on those switches in New York. He had a good series too. You know what I'm saying? Tobias is solid. He's gonna stretch the floor. He gonna be an okay rebounder. He gonna defend at a high level, and that's what they was missing. And he's a locker room guy. So yeah, you talking about going out there adding a Nas Reed. He can bring Reed bring a little bit something different, as far as, being able to put the ball on the ground, but pretty much the same. You're talking about adding a Laurie Marketing. I think there's a huge defensive drop off just from my perception of Laurie Marketing. I could be wrong, but there seems to be a defensive drop off between Marketing and Tobias Harris. But Marketing can shoot the ball. He's a little bit better rebounder than old buddy. You know what I'm saying? So kind of we start having these, conversations like, where's the upgrade gonna come from? Pelicans say they not trading Zion. So where do we start really having these conversations? Is he really that bad that people think he is? No, I mean, I think you can win a championship with him playing that forward, but that's just my opinion on it. Everybody already forcing him out the door, whether it's Marketing, whether it's a guy like Nas Reed. I mean, you could add a backup guy like Bobby Portis. That'd be a really, really interesting fit as well too, where they both kind of can play together and man that position together. So that's just how I feel about it. Um, I don't think they have to get rid of him, but in a lot of these trades, if you want to land a Kevin Durant, a Devin Booker, or whatever, that contract has kind of got to be in there. If you move him for a guy like Devin Booker, what's the plan to fill the position with with Nas Reed, Bobby Portis, Lloyd Marketing? How much do you really want to change this team's DNA? That's the question. How much more do you really want to change their DNA? Do you want to, move, bring another four in and bring another shooting guard in and, start to just put pieces around K? Do you want to keep these guys together and make a small, shift right then and there with a new power forward or whatever? So, but honestly, it just seems like it's predetermined where most people are just going to say that Tobias Harris is gone. That's pretty much what people are already saying. Every mock trade has got him in there. And I understand his contract is needed for most of these trades. I get it. You know, I talked about kind of, some talk. You remember talk about Jalen Duren going to the Lakers. It started coming out there. Oh, Jalen Duren going to the Lakers. He going to, we like, where the fuck is this coming from? All of a sudden now, Pistons are interested in a stretch five by Miles Turner, more of a stretch five. So now you kind of seeing, you start to hear we don't hear the whispers around certain players. There could be a big change coming to Detroit Pistons front line from Tim Hardaway Jr. not returning to Jalen Duren not returning to Tobias Harris not returning. And then also, you can see a significant shift in the backcourt. Ivy could be gone. So in reality, you might have a totally different team around Cade Cunningham. Let's say they do land Miles Turner or Demonis Sabonis or somebody or another guy. Let's say they do bring in a Klay Thompson and Cam Johnson and Trey Murphy to play the three of the three. Let's say they do land Bobby Portis and Nas Reed. That's a totally different starting lineup. He's on a fucking different lineup. So it could be a lot of change. Then you say, will Schroeder come back? Beasley come? They might just say, okay, we seen what this team can do. We about to make changes. So you may see a totally different basketball team come next year. You might see 4 new starters around Cade Cunningham. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm just saying you could see it. You could see it. So yeah, it can get spooky. It can get spooky, man. Like, but most people already wrote the man off. Would I be surprised if he returned next year? No. I wouldn't be surprised if he returned next year. I would expect him to return next year, um but it seemed like they prepared. So they talking about Turner and Nas Reed, then it's like they prepared to move on from Duran and Tobias. So man, yay. Remember they didn't handpick Duran. I mean, everybody's so into the stretch five now. To me, it's disgusting. I just think it's really disgusting to take a 7-foot motherfucker and put him at the 3-point line all the time. It's just basketball is just played so backwards now, man, and nobody is legitimately trying to fix it. Nobody. They know how to shoot threes before they know how to post up. It's just to me watching the game as a purist, it's disgusting. You 7 foot. Why would I want you at the 3-point line all the time? If you can be a Terry Mills, Sam Perkins every now and again, cool. Bill Laimbeer, okay, cool. But they teaching them to shoot threes before they teaching them how to seal somebody on their backside and do a drop step. It is nasty work. Your primary thing, you look at Dwight Howard, you look at Ben Wallace, Shaquille O'Neal, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Alonzo Mourning, guys like that. That's what the position should be about. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will control your paint and lock it down. The closer you are to the bucket, the higher percentage you got to make in the bucket, right? So, but I live in the twilight zone when talking about basketball, man. Like, I know about the Pete Maraviches and the Nate Tiny Archibalds, the George Garvin. On 5150 show, they was talking about whether Iverson was a 1 or a 2. He was a 2. Iverson was a 2 guard. Steph Curry is a 2 guard. They say he's a 1. He's a 2. And they was talking about also Dwight and Tracy McGrady and Dwayne Wade. All time, who was a better player with accolades? Dwayne Wade. But at their peak, was Tracy McGrady just as good or better than peak Dwayne Wade? That's a conversation to have. Tracy just didn't win, but that's another conversation. Remember, he told us he was happy to be moving on to the first round. We pulled Tayshaun out the fucking deep freezer. That's all she wrote. But hey, check out Detroit Piston Talk playlist. Hit the link in the description. Follow me on X, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Facebook, wherever I'm producing that. Check out Detroit Piston Talk playlist. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel.